What's up, man? This is a little segment we're going to call Business Talk with the Hero. I sit around, I see, I own 3 businesses now. I've got employees and things like that. And, we talk about, or you hear about this debate about minimum wage a lot of times, and how, certain people can't live off minimum wage, and it's true. It's true. Minimum wage is not something that's meant for a family. Now, as an employer, that's something that we say that, justifies, our expenses. Like the business, 2 of the businesses that I own are very low profit margin businesses. They're very low skill. As far as being able to handle the job, my 9-year-old does it. Literally, she works for me. She's one of my best employees. But a 9-year-old's capable of it. Not that she's not, an above average 9-year-old. Maybe I'm a little biased, but she is able to do 100% the job that anybody else could, besides maybe, drive herself there. She's incapable of driving herself there legally. She legally can't work there. She obviously is just, working with dad, but she can do the whole job. So therefore, that categorizes the job as minimum skill. If a 9-year-old can master the job within a week, this is what we're talking about, a minimum skill job. And that's what I explain to my employees when they come in and they apply for the job. It's minimum skill, which equals minimum wage. Now, from a business standpoint, that might sound like a little smug, and it sounds like, the job doesn't take much and blah, 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 this and that. Now, that doesn't mean that you're worthless. It just means that there's a lot more people that can do that job. You're not specialized, right? Now, there are ways that as an employer, there are responsibilities that you have as an employer if you are somebody who is paying somebody minimum wage, right? Now, you hear this argument about, a minimum wage job is entry level. It's supposed to be entry level, and that's true. It is supposed to be entry level. But as an employer, I feel like you have a responsibility to take that employee as entry level, and by the time they leave your establishment, it should be planned on your part for that employee to leave your establishment in a certain amount of time to move on to bigger and better things. And you should expect that in an industry that depends on minimum wage employees. Now, at the same time as there's a million other people that can do that one job because it's minimum skill, there's also a million other minimum skill jobs out there. So as an employer, you have to set yourself apart the same way that you compete with rates with other companies in your industry. You have to compete for employees because you want the best employees. Chick-fil-A, for example, is a very, very good example. All their employees are top notch. The one where I'm at in West Monroe, anyway, everybody knows. The service doesn't get better. The employees are great, but there's a reason for that. They hold their employees to a standard, but their employees also hold them to a standard. By the time if I had an employee or somebody come to me and put an application and they said, yeah, I worked at Chick-fil-A on Thomas Road, and the drive was too long, and this is right by my house, this is just where I want to be. And I said, okay, and I called the Chick-fil-A and they had a decent reference, I would hire them immediately. Not only would I hire them immediately, I would almost move them to a managerial position immediately if they had a decent reference. And the reason that I would do that is because I know that Chick-fil-A has par none as far as a company that's going to train somebody in customer service. You're not going to beat Chick-fil-A. You're not going to do it. Not the one here in West Monroe, Louisiana, anyway, I can promise you. And that's the difference in... That's what I mean. As an employer, you have a certain responsibility. So if you are going to treat this person as an entry-level employer, they have the expectation that they're not going to get rich off of this job, but at the same time, you need to be offering other things to them. So in order to keep this video, a little bit short, that's what I'm saying. So, there are a lot of things to gain from being in a position, and this is mainly for the kids out there, the other people working for minimum wage positions. If you that's where your skill level is, that doesn't mean you have to go to college, or you have to go here, you have to go there to move up, right? That doesn't mean that you're stuck here, okay? You can be here, and if you went and trained at Chick-fil-A for 6 months, you can move to a place like mine. I own 2 nutrition shops, and a guy like me, if you got trained correctly at Chick-fil-A, will put you in the top position. You could go work at Office Depot. That's another one that has a sales training program, things like that. There are other ways to go out there and get trained, and you can use these minimum wage jobs as I guess a resume educational background. That's kind of that's just kind of one of the things that go through my head. So like with my employees, for example, I want to make sure that, they are there making minimum wage, but at the same time, I'm teaching them how to work a register. I'm teaching them how to talk to customers. I'm not riding them. I'm not hollering at them. I'm not acting crazy with them, because I understand they're not making a whole lot of money, and they could go somewhere else and do the same thing. And as replaceable as they are, I'm replaceable too. They could go find another minimum wage job somewhere. There's always somebody hiring. As bad as people want to make it out, like there aren't any jobs, it just depends on what you're willing to do. There's always a job out there. But at the same time, I feel like that makes me attract good employees, and then my employees trust me, and therefore, having that relationship, that's one of the things you can't really replace. But as an employer of people who are, I guess minimum wage employees, I expect them to leave, but I feel like it's my responsibility for them to be better when they do leave my business and they go to somewhere else. I feel like the way my employees are is a reflection on me, and if they go somewhere else and they're working for another company, and they are a good employee, it's the same way if one of my kids were going to go work for you and your business. If my kid was a piece of crap, that's going to look bad on me, and I'm going to be embarrassed about it. And it's the same way. My employees are the same way. If you're like, what was your last boss letting you get away with? This is just ridiculous. But I feel like there's a lot more to gain from jobs than just money. And I feel like there's a lot of kids in our society, and I'm not even going to say kids. There's adults in our society. There are a lot of adults in our society that don't get that. There are so many intangible things that you gain from different jobs and just different events in life that aren't money or materialistic things that you just can't replace. And when you're looking at building a career or building a resume or even building a life, you have to make sure you're taking those things into consideration. So I'm gonna stop talking now. Just something I was thinking about driving home. But I feel like it's something that I wish I would have been told when I was 16, because I was working for my dad since I was 7 years old, and learning how to work and learning how to have the work ethic and stuff like that, but I did have jobs. Every one of my jobs I started off with was minimum wage, and I used that job to move on to a better job. I never was unemployed. I always left to better myself, but I never realized the things that those jobs were doing for me. I worked at a local place here named, called Gene Cox Grocery. I was making like $5.15 an hour, but man, that job taught me so much that I didn't even realize at the time it taught me. And not even just helping me in being a businessman, but just being an adult, being people coming in there and just people I don't even know, being able to make eye contact with them, talk to them, ask them about their day, be charming, being able to deal with people. That was a huge thing, to be able to learn how to bite my tongue. That was one of the biggest problems I had, but as in hindsight, I'm 30 and I'm looking back, and that makes sense. I just wish somebody would have kind of told me that as a kid, and I would have taken better advantage of those situations, because looking back, there were a lot of people that I worked for that were very, very smart business people, that I could have absorbed a lot of information from. That I did absorb a lot of information from. I got a lot from my dad, and but different people I worked for, not just them, but I learned a lot, but I could have learned so much more had I realized what was in front of me. So, all right, I'm out. Later, guys. Maybe that'll help somebody.